Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here today to learn how to talk about the things you like and the things you don't in English. When you can share your favorites, whether it's music, food, or hobbies, you make your conversations more interesting and personal. Saying you enjoy something helps you connect with people, and explaining what you don't enjoy can help others understand you better. In this video, we'll learn simple phrases that you can use right away to say what you love and what you'd rather avoid. First, think about a hobby or activity you really enjoy. Maybe you love playing basketball, painting, or reading mystery novels. In English, you might say, "I really enjoy playing basketball," or "I'm a big fan of mystery books." Later, when you meet someone new, you can say these lines to start a friendly chat. You can also say what you don't like. For example, if you aren't fond of spicy food, you could say, "I'm not crazy about very spicy dishes," or "I can't stand really hot chili peppers." Even though these words might feel new at first, they will become easy as you practice. In this introduction, we've talked about why expressing likes and dislikes is important. We've also touched on the idea of using simple phrases to share your interests and dislikes. Soon, in the main part of our lesson, we will explore key expressions and repeat them in different ways. This repetition will help you remember and feel confident when you speak. By the end of this video, you'll be able to use these phrases naturally in everyday conversations. Now that we've set the stage by understanding why it's helpful to talk about likes and dislikes, get ready for the next section. In the main part, we will dive into useful sentences you can use immediately, and we will link each new phrase back to what we've just discussed, so everything fits together smoothly. Let's keep this gentle pace and continue building your skills step by step. In the introduction, we saw why talking about what you like and what you don't like makes conversations more lively and personal. Now, let's learn some simple phrases you can use right away. First, when you want to tell someone about something you really enjoy, you can say, "I really enjoy," or "I'm a big fan of." You might say, "I really enjoy cooking," or "I'm a big fan of jazz music." Notice how both phrases show your positive feelings clearly. Saying "I really enjoy cooking" is almost the same as saying "I love cooking," but "I really enjoy" feels a bit gentler and more natural in everyday talk. Next, you can switch your wording slightly to practice more variation. You could say, "I really like," or "I'm fond of." For example, "I really like hiking in the mountains," or "I'm fond of reading science fiction." These phrases give you the same meaning as before, letting people know what makes you happy, but they use different words. Repeating ideas in new ways like this makes your English richer. You can link back to our first examples by thinking, "I really enjoy cooking," and then trying, "I really like baking cakes." Both express your enjoyment, but baking cakes switches the activity and keeps the phrase fresh. Now let's turn to talking about things you don't enjoy. In the introduction, we mentioned how saying what you don't like helps people understand your tastes. A common phrase is, "I'm not crazy about." For example, "I'm not crazy about loud parties," or "I'm not crazy about documentaries." This phrase sounds polite and soft, so it doesn't sound too strong. You can repeat it with a different activity. "I'm not crazy about cold weather," reinforcing the same structure you used when you said, "I'm really enjoy cooking." By mirroring the pattern, "I'm not crazy about," instead of "I really enjoy," you build confidence in using these phrases naturally. Another way to express a dislike is to say, "I can't stand." This phrase is stronger. You could say, "I can't stand waiting in long lines," or "I can't stand eating very spicy food." Because "I can't stand" is more forceful, use it when you feel strongly. To link back, think of your "I really enjoy" examples and flip them. "I really enjoy cooking" becomes "I can't stand washing dishes." You keep the same verb form, but but change can't stand for really enjoy. And you see how your feelings shift from positive to negative in a clear structure. For a softer dislike, try I'm not a big fan of. You might say I'm not a big fan of horror movies, or I'm not a big fan of heavy traffic. This matches I'm a big fan of from before, just with not added. So I'm a big fan of jazz music becomes I'm not a big fan of loud rock music. This direct contrast lets you practice both sides of the topic, likes and dislikes, using almost the same words. To recap these core expressions, I really enjoy, I'm a big fan of, I really like, I'm fond of, for likes, and I'm not crazy about, I can't stand, I'm not a big fan of, for dislikes. By repeating each phrase and switching only the verbs or the objects, you link back to how we started this chapter, building on the introduction's idea of expressing tastes. The more you repeat and remix these phrases, the more comfortable you become. Let's push ourselves a little further now. Try combining these expressions with reasons. For instance, I really enjoy cooking because it helps me relax. Or, I'm not crazy about horror movies because they scare me too much. By adding because, you give more detail. Link this to our earlier point about making conversations more personal. When you explain why you like something, you invite the other person to respond, maybe by saying, "Oh, I love cooking too because it lets me be creative." Or I understand, horror movies can be too scary. Finally, let's practice a different variation for likes. I'm passionate about. You might say, I'm passionate about learning new languages, or I'm passionate about environmental conservation. This is a stronger, more enthusiastic version of I'm a big fan of, or I really enjoy. To mirror it for dislikes, you can use I have a hard time with. For example, I have a hard time with advanced grammar, or I have a hard time with driving in heavy traffic. Notice how have a hard time with expresses difficulty or mild dislike, offering yet another way to share your feelings. In this main part, we linked every new phrase back to our simple introduction ideas, mixing and repeating key expressions in different ways. You now have a toolkit of statements: strong likes, gentle likes, strong dislikes, and gentle dislikes, plus ways to add reasons. As we move into the examples chapter, we'll see these expressions in real dialogues, showing how each phrase connects and flows naturally. Keep these sentences in mind, and get ready to hear them come alive in conversation. Building on the phrases we practiced in the main part, let's see how they sound in real conversations. In this first short dialogue, imagine two friends meeting after work. One says, I'm a big fan of Italian food, and the other replies, That's great, I really enjoy pasta too, especially spaghetti carbonara. By using I'm a big fan of and I really enjoy, they share their tastes clearly and invite each other to discuss favorite dishes. This simple exchange shows how expressing likes can turn a quick greeting into a friendly chat about food. In our next example, one speaker explains a dislike. Picture two classmates talking about movies. The first says, I'm not crazy about horror films. And the second responds, I understand. I can't stand those sudden loud noises either. Here, I'm not crazy about softens the dislike, and I can't stand shows a stronger feeling, yet it remains polite and natural. This exchange links back to our main part phrases, illustrating how to express mild and strong dislikes in one conversation without sounding rude. Now let's add a reason to make the dialogue more engaging. Two colleagues discuss weekend plans. The first person says, I really like hiking because it helps me relax. And the second answers, that sounds peaceful. I'm not a big fan of hiking myself because the trails are too steep for me. By including because, both speakers share personal details and explain their preferences. This deepens the conversation. Just as we practiced when we talked about adding reasons to our likes and dislikes. In another scenario, two neighbors talk about music. One says, I'm passionate about classical music. And the other replies, I'm fond of classical too, but I have a hard time with long symphonies because they feel endless. Here, I'm passionate about expresses a strong positive feeling, while I have a hard time with offers a gentle way to share a dislike or difficulty. This example links back to our introduction idea of making conversations personal by sharing how you feel about an activity. Next, imagine a teacher and a student discussing hobbies. The student says, I really like painting, and the teacher responds, painting is wonderful. I'm really enjoy drawing myself because it helps me focus. Notice how I'm really enjoy drawing slightly shifts from I really like, but keeps the same meaning. This repetition of phrasing reinforces learning and shows how small changes in wording keep conversations fresh. Finally, picture two travelers talking about weather. One says, I can't stand hot weather, and the other answers, I'm not crazy about cold weather either. I prefer mild spring days. Here, we've used both I can't stand and I'm not crazy about in one brief exchange. This example brings together both strong and gentle dislikes, demonstrating how you can switch between levels of emphasis depending on how you feel. These mini conversations show our key expressions in action, linking each example back to the phrases from the main part. By practicing with real dialogues, you see how I really enjoy, I'm a big fan of, I'm not a big fan of, I can't stand, and other phrases flow naturally in everyday speech. Notice how each speaker varies their language slightly, keeping the conversation engaging while reinforcing what you've learned. In our final chapter, we'll summarize these expressions once more and encourage you to try them yourself every day. We've traveled from understanding why sharing your likes and dislikes matters, through learning simple phrases like, I really enjoy, I'm not crazy about, and I can't stand, and then watched those phrases come alive in everyday dialogues. By repeating each expression in different ways and adding reasons with because, you've built a flexible toolkit for talking about your favorites and your pet peeves. Remember how I'm a big fan of jazz music matches up with I'm not a big fan of loud rock, or how I'm passionate about painting pairs naturally with I have a hard time with large canvases. Those connections make it easy to switch between positive and negative statements. As you practice these sentences, you'll notice how smoothly they fit into conversation, whether you're meeting a new friend, chatting with a classmate, or simply describing your weekend plans. The more you use them, the more natural they will feel. Try making your own examples today. Think of one thing you really enjoy and one thing you'd rather avoid, and say each sentence out loud, linking them with because to give detail. Keep building on what you learned here. Use these phrases every day, in texts or spoken chats, and soon you'll express your tastes with confidence and ease. Practice a little each morning or evening, and watch your English grow stronger day by day. You've done a wonderful job. Keep going, and enjoy every step of your English journey.